The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was having coffee on my back porch. The sun was just breaking through the oak trees, casting long shadows across the yard I had maintained for 30 years. I almost didn't answer when I saw my son's name on the screen. We hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, not since our last uncomfortable dinner where he'd asked too many questions about my finances. "Dad, I need to tell you something." His voice had that rehearsed quality, like he'd practiced this conversation in the mirror. "Jennifer and I are buying a house. A real house, not some apartment. We found the perfect place in Riverside Heights. I knew that neighborhood. Houses there started at $700,000. My son worked in marketing, made decent money, but not that kind of money." "That's wonderful, Michael. I'm happy for you." I waited, knowing there was more coming. "The thing is, we're short on the down payment. Just by about $50,000. I was thinking, with your retirement accounts and the business you sold, maybe you could help us out. Consider it an early inheritance." There it was, the ask, the assumption that my money was somehow already his, just waiting for the right moment to change hands. "Michael, I'll think about it. Let me look at my finances and we'll talk." "Dad, we need to move fast. There are other buyers interested. Can you just transfer the money? I'll pay you back, I promise." Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. This wasn't a request. It was an expectation. After we hung up, I sat there watching the shadows shift, thinking about the boy I'd raised and the man he'd become. His mother died when he was 16, and I'd done everything alone. Put him through college, bought him his first car, helped with his wedding. Where had this entitlement come from? The first real warning came 2 days later. I checked my bank account to see exactly what I could afford to give Michael, and my heart stopped. My savings account showed a balance of $3,000. It should have shown $215,000. My hands shook as I scrolled through the transaction history. 5 large transfers over the past 2 weeks, all going to an account I didn't recognize. Each one authorized through my online banking portal with my own login credentials. I called the bank immediately. The representative, a patient woman named Sandra, explained that the transfers appeared legitimate. They'd been initiated from my account using my password and security codes. No flags had been raised because everything looked authorized. "But I didn't authorize them," I said, my voice barely steady. "I didn't make these transfers." "Sir, do you share your banking information with anyone? A family member, perhaps?" Then I remembered. 6 months ago, Michael had helped me set up online banking. I'd been resistant to technology, and he'd insisted on modernizing my accounts. He'd sat at my computer, typing in passwords, setting up security questions. I've been grateful for his help. Had he kept my information? I hung up and immediately called Michael. It went to voicemail. I called again and again. On the 4th try, he answered. "Dad, I'm in a meeting. Can this wait? Did you take money from my account?" Silence. Long enough that I knew the answer before he spoke. "Dad, calm down. I was going to tell you. Jennifer and I needed the down payment faster than we thought. You said you'd think about helping us, so I expedited the process. We could pay you back after we close on the house. You stole from me." "I didn't steal. It's not stealing when it's family. Besides, like I said, it's basically my inheritance anyway. We're just accessing it a little early." The casualness in his voice, the complete lack of remorse, sent ice through my veins. "You took $212,000 without asking. Look, Dad, you're overreacting. You have plenty of money. The business sale alone was worth almost $2 million. You don't need all that cash sitting around. Jennifer and I have expenses. We have a future to build. You're 70 years old. What are you even saving for at this point?" I couldn't speak, couldn't form words around the betrayal lodging in my throat. "I have to go," Michael said. "We'll talk about this later when you're calmer." He hung up, just hung up, as if he hadn't just admitted to stealing my life savings. I sat in my kitchen for hours, staring at nothing. The house felt different now, heavier somehow. Every corner held memories of raising Michael here. His first steps in that hallway, teaching him to ride a bike in the driveway, helping him with homework at this very table. Had I failed him so completely that he thought this was acceptable? My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Dad, stop being dramatic. This is for our future. You should be happy for us." Something cold and hard settled in my chest. I opened my laptop and began documenting everything. Every transaction, every date, every conversation I could remember. Then I called my lawyer. James Patterson had handled my business sale and my estate planning. He listened to my story with growing concern. Robert, this is serious. What your son did constitutes theft and potentially identity fraud. You could press criminal charges. He's my son. He's also a thief who stole over $200,000 from you. I closed my eyes. What are my options? We file a police report, pursue criminal charges, and sue for full restitution. Or you could try to handle this privately, but I strongly advise against that. Michael needs to understand the severity of what he's done. Let me talk to him first. One more time. James sighed. 24 hours, Robert. Then we file charges whether you're ready or not. This kind of theft doesn't just hurt you, it sets a precedent. What if he does this to someone else? That night, I drove to Michael's apartment. Jennifer answered the door, her smile bright and false. Robert, what a surprise. Michael's not home yet. I'll wait. Her smile faded. Actually, this isn't a great time. We have plans. I'll wait, I repeated, stepping past her into their living room. The apartment was nice, expensive furniture, large television, artwork that probably cost more than my monthly expenses. They weren't struggling. They were living beyond their means and using my money to upgrade. Michael came home 30 minutes later. His face went pale when he saw me. Dad, what are you doing here? We need to talk about the money you stole. Jennifer stepped forward. He didn't steal anything. You were going to give it to him anyway. Stay out of this, I said, not taking my eyes off my son. Don't talk to my wife like that. Your wife who convinced you to rob your father. Jennifer's face flushed. We didn't rob anyone. Michael has every right to that money. You're old. You don't need it. We're building a life here. On stolen money. It's not stolen. Her voice rose. It's family money. Michael is your only child. Everything you have should go to him eventually. We just need it now. The entitlement in her voice was staggering. I looked at Michael, waiting for him to say something to show some sign of the boy I'd raised. He just stood there, jaw tight, arms crossed. Michael, I need you to return the money. All of it. Today. We already spent it on the house deposit. Then get it back. We can't. The sale is an escrow. If we back out now, we lose the deposit entirely. That's not my problem. Jennifer laughed, sharp and bitter. Of course it's your problem. Do you want your son to lose $50,000? What kind of father are you? The kind who doesn't appreciate being robbed. This is ridiculous, Michael said. Dad, just let it go. We'll pay you back eventually. When we can afford it. That's not good enough. You stole from me, Michael. Do you understand that? You accessed my accounts without permission and took money that wasn't yours. That's theft. It's not theft when it's family, Jennifer insisted. Yes, I said slowly. It is. I pulled out my phone and called James Patterson, putting it on speaker. James, I'm here with Michael. He's confirmed he took the money and refuses to return it. File the police report and press charges. Wait. Michael's eyes went wide. Dad, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You'd have your own son arrested? You'd steal from your own father? Jennifer grabbed Michael's arm. Don't let him bully you. He's bluffing. But I wasn't bluffing, and Michael could see in my face. Dad, please. Think about what this will do. I could lose my job. We could lose the house. You should have considered that before you committed fraud. Mr. Patterson, I said into the phone. Proceed with everything we discussed. I hung up and walked toward the door. Michael grabbed my arm. Dad, wait. Please. Let's talk about this. We can work something out. I looked at his hand on my arm, then at his face. There was panic there now, real fear, but no remorse. No genuine understanding of what he'd done. You had multiple chances to do the right thing, Michael. You chose not to. I left their apartment and drove home through blurry vision. Tears I hadn't realized I was crying, making the streetlights smear into stars. The next morning, 2 detectives came to my house. They took my statement, collected documentation, and explained the process. Michael would be arrested, charged with theft and identity fraud. The case was strong. The evidence was clear. Are you sure about this, sir? The older detective asked. Once we arrest him, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. They arrested Michael at his office. Jennifer called me screaming, calling me every name she could think of. I hung up and blocked her number. The preliminary hearing was surreal. Michael stood before the judge in a suit, looking young and scared. His lawyer argued for dismissal, claiming it was a family misunderstanding. The prosecutor presented the evidence, the unauthorized transfers, the admission of taking the money, the refusal to return it. The judge set bail at $100,000. Michael's face crumbled. They couldn't afford it, not with their down payment in escrow. He spent 3 days in jail before Jennifer's parents posted bail. When he got out, he called me. "I hope you're happy," he said, his voice hollow. "I lost my job. We lost the house. Jennifer's family thinks I'm a criminal. All because you couldn't just let family be family. You stole from me, Michael. I'm your son, and I'm your father. That should have meant something to you." He hung up. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd gotten the first call, and wondered if I'd made the right choice. Was this justice or revenge? Was I protecting myself or destroying my son? The trial took 6 months to reach court. In that time, Michael and Jennifer's marriage fell apart. She filed for divorce, claiming she'd been manipulated by him. Michael moved back to a small apartment, working odd jobs because no marketing firm would hire someone awaiting trial for fraud. He looked gaunt when I saw him in court. His suit hung loose on his frame. His eyes had dark circles. Part of me wanted to rush to him to fix everything like I'd fixed scraped knees and broken hearts when he was young. But another part of me, the part that had been violated and betrayed, stayed seated. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution presented bank records, testimony from the bank's fraud department, digital forensics showing Michael had accessed my accounts, his own text messages admitting to taking the money. His defense tried to paint it as a misunderstanding, a son who thought he had permission. But my testimony was clear. I had never given permission. I had never agreed to any transfers. Michael had stolen my login information and accessed my accounts without authorization. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, Michael closed his eyes. On the charge of grand theft, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. On the charge of identity fraud, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. Michael's shoulders shook. His lawyer put a hand on his back. I sat perfectly still, feeling nothing and everything at once. The judge sentenced him to 4 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 2. Additionally, full restitution of the stolen amount plus interest and court costs. The total came to $247,000. As they led him away in handcuffs, Michael looked at me one last time. His eyes held something I hadn't seen before, not anger or entitlement, but what might have been understanding, or maybe just defeat. After the sentencing, James met me outside the courthouse. "You did the right thing, Robert. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "The restitution will be paid through garnished wages once he's released. It'll take years, possibly decades, but you'll recover the money." Money. As if that's what this had ever been about. I drove home alone, walked into my empty house, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I let myself break down completely. The months after Michael's imprisonment were strange. Some days I felt justified, vindicated even. Other days I wondered if I destroyed my son over money, if there had been another way. I received a letter from him after 3 months. The handwriting was shaky, uncertain. "Dad, I've had a lot of time to think in here. I understand now what I did. Not just the theft, but the betrayal. You raised me alone after Mom died. You gave me everything, and I repaid you by treating you like an ATM. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand." I read that letter a dozen times, looking for signs of manipulation, for the same entitlement that had led him to steal. But all I found was something that might have been genuine remorse. I didn't write back. Not then. I wasn't ready. My life moved forward. I joined a community group for victims of financial elder abuse, sharing my story with others who'd been betrayed by family members. Their stories were heartbreaking. Children who'd drained parents' accounts, grandchildren who'd forged signatures, relatives who'd convinced elderly family members to sign over property. I met others who'd pressed charges like I had. They carried the same mixture of guilt and determination. We reminded each other that protecting ourselves wasn't cruel, it was necessary. I also met people who hadn't pressed charges, who'd forgiven and forgotten, only to be victimized again. Their regret was palpable. 1 year into Michael's sentence, I received another letter. Dad, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I've been working with a therapist here, dealing with a lot of issues I didn't know I had. Entitlement, yes, but also resentment I've carried since Mom died. I blamed you for things that weren't your fault. I turned that blame into justification for treating you badly. I'm working on it. I'm trying to become someone better. Someone you might have been proud of. This letter felt different. More honest, more raw. I wrote back. Just a few lines. Michael, I'm glad you're getting help. I hope you find the peace you're looking for. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was communication. Over the next year, we exchanged occasional letters. His were long, detailed, full of insights about himself and his failures. Mine were brief, guarded. I wasn't ready to open myself up to more hurt. Then, 18 months into his sentence, I received a call from the prison. Michael had been hospitalized with appendicitis. The surgery had gone well, but he'd asked them to notify me. I drove to the prison hospital, something I'd sworn I'd never do. Michael looked small on the hospital bed, pale and weak. When he saw me, tears filled his eyes. You came. You're still my son. We talked for 2 hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. He told me about his life in prison, the fear, the loneliness, the forced introspection. I told him about the support group, about the other victims I'd met, about how his actions had hurt me beyond just the money. I stole your sense of safety, he said quietly. I made you doubt your own judgment in raising me. That's worse than the money. Yes, I agreed. It is. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about it carefully. I don't know, Michael. Forgiveness isn't something I can force. Maybe someday. That's more than I deserve. He was paroled after 2 years for good behavior. He moved into a halfway house, got a job at a warehouse, and started paying restitution. $50 a week. At that rate, it would take 94 years to repay me. We met for coffee 6 months after his release. He looked healthier, more centered somehow. He told me about his therapy, about the amends he was trying to make, not just to me, but to himself. I'm not asking to be part of your life again, he said. I know I destroyed that, but I want you to know I'm trying to be better. I can see that, I said. We started meeting monthly. Brief conversations, carefully maintained boundaries. He never asked for money, never made excuses. He took responsibility consistently and completely. 3 years after his release, 5 years after his arrest, Michael asked if he could visit my house. Our house, the one he'd grown up in. I hesitated, but agreed. He walked through it slowly, touching the walls, looking at old photos I'd kept hanging. He stopped at one picture, him at age 8, grinning with missing front teeth. I was happy then, he said. I don't know when I stopped being happy. When it became about wanting more instead of appreciating what I had. Neither do I. He turned to me. Dad, I can never repay what I stole. Not just the money, but the trust, the relationship, the years. I know that. But I want you to know that becoming the person who hurt you was the worst thing I've ever done. And becoming someone who wouldn't do that again has been the hardest and most important work of my life. I looked at this man, my son, older now and worn by consequences. He wasn't the entitled thief who'd stolen from me, but he wasn't the boy I'd raised either. He was something new, forged in the fire of his own mistakes. I believe you, I said finally. It wasn't forgiveness. Not complete forgiveness. But it was something. A beginning, maybe, or an ending. Or both. We still meet monthly. The restitution payments continue, $50 at a time. Michael knows he'll be paying for the rest of his life. He accepts that. Says it's a reminder, a penance, a commitment. I've rebuilt my savings through careful management and the restitution. My financial security is restored. But the emotional security, the ability to trust fully, remains damaged. Maybe permanently. Some people ask if I regret pressing charges, if I wish I'd handled it differently. The truth is complicated. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret demanding consequences. But I do regret that consequences were necessary. I regret that my son became someone capable of such betrayal. Would I do it again? Yes, because the alternative letting him face no consequences, enabling his behavior, teaching him that theft is acceptable if your family would have been worse. Not just for me, but for him. He needed to understand that actions have consequences. That love doesn't mean unconditional acceptance of harmful behavior. That being family means respecting each other, not exploiting each other. These lessons cost us both dearly. But maybe they were lessons that needed to be learned. I'm 75 now. Michael is 40. We have a relationship, carefully built on honesty and boundaries. It's not what I imagined when he was young. It's not the close father-son bond one hoped for. But it's real. It's honest. And sometimes that has to be enough. The house is quiet now, as it's been for years. But it's a different kind of quiet. Not the hollow silence of betrayal, but the peaceful stillness of hard-won wisdom. I learned that love without boundaries is not love at all. That protecting yourself doesn't make you cruel. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the full weight of their choices. And I learned that family, real family, isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect, trust, and a willingness to do the hard work of being worthy of each other. Michael is learning that too. Slowly, painfully, but genuinely. Maybe that's the real inheritance I'm leaving him. Not money, but understanding. Not wealth, but wisdom. Not a free pass, but a hard-earned second chance. And maybe, just maybe, that's worth more than $200,000 ever was.